All right. So can you hear me? Is it working? Can you see my screen now? Let's see. So there. Can you see my screen over here with everything else? With my trading view up? Sweet. All right, I got it to work. It took me forever. Sorry. All right, let me pop this out real quick. And dashboard. There we go. Oh yeah. All right, now we're cooking with grease. So let's see. Cool. All right, now we're good. All right, so I'm sure you saw the first one. Totally botched that one, so forgive me for that. It is what it is. I'm still trying to figure this thing out. It was much easier on the Patreon. CIDM. Yeah, let me take a look at that real quick. Hold on. CIDM. Oh wow. All right, cool. All right, so I'm gonna bust this out of the 1 minute because it looks a little wonky. So let me pull it to the 45. Let's see what's going on with this. All right, so synonym corporation. Actually, someone actually brought that up earlier today. A guy that I work with, or a guy I was building a table with. Yeah, so this is coming out of a really strong sideways consolidation. I mean, this is a long period of time. So we're looking at over 3 weeks, just about over 3 weeks, maybe two weeks. So looking pretty good, coming back up to the highs. Now this area of support or this area of resistance right here, let's see if we can pull that up. Right, oop, come on, get over. There we go. All right, so 232 is your area of resistance. It barely hit that and it came climbing or falling back down. So that was the apex. So this movement here, you had sideways consolidation movement, was pretty good, had a good upward move here, but you almost had a full and complete retracement. If it would have pulled back to that 74, 75 cent region, you would have had a full retracement. So it's pretty close, almost got it. But it came down to this dollar, kind of malingered here for a day or two and bounced out of it. So it looks like your bottom right now is that dollar area, sideways consolidation here. I'd say the bottom of this, most likely, say 120, even 115, 113 area. Now, for this to be healthy, for me to say that this is kind of a healthy movement, is if this was to come back and maybe come back into this midline area being 165, maybe 150. It can come back to there, have another area of support, maybe another area to use it as a springboard to bounce up. Or it could be really good and continue this bullish flag, even though this is the aftermarket and the pre-market, have that bullish flag that just got kind of built right there. If it kicks out and goes consolidation, that would be nice. But when companies like this do make another upward move, there were some people that bought in here, right? And it fell and they've been bag hoarding. And this may be their chance to get out of it. So if they decide to use that as their chance to get out of it, so you will see this thing fall a little bit at the opening when they get their chance to do it. We got 15 minutes to the opening bell, 10 minutes, almost 10 minutes to the opening bell. So we'll see in 10 minutes how this thing does. It's very overbought right now. The MACD is looking really solid and strong. MACD's starting to make a little bit of a curl. Your histographs is starting to go faded, starting to have a downward movement. The volume right now, Once this thing kicks up and opens, I'll be able to actually see what the volume is. But the average is 14.72 million, and yesterday was 62. So clearly, there's a lot of volume coming in for this, so it looks pretty good. But I don't know a whole lot about this company to really kind of see where it's going, other than what the charts are telling me, or the technicals. The latest thing they have is their what's this? The pays down to 3.5 million prospective capital, so they paid down a loan, so that's pretty good. So that adds to the strength of the company, but taking away their debt is always going to be really, really good for companies, obviously. All right, so hopefully I answered your question. Let's see, HOFV. You and your NFTs, Alan. You and your NFTs. And those are my dogs. HOFV. Oh, yeah. Man, I was looking at this morning. I'll be honest with you, I was not even this morning. Yesterday I was looking at them like, I like this dip. I was going to try to buy into them. I just didn't pull the trigger. I'll be honest, I didn't pull the trigger. And look at it now, right? I was actually gonna throw maybe 1,000 shares at it just because the NFTs are making their moves right now. I didn't pull the trigger, so I lost. So far, I've lost $3,000. So that would have hurt. That would have been really good, but it is what it is, man. I wasn't paying attention, and I didn't have the testicular fortitude to pull that trigger, and now I'm paying for it. But with this NFTs are super hot right now. The consolidation here was really solid around that 280, 275 area. It did break out of it, and which was really nice. So it came up to this 6 area and did do kind of a mid-range pullback, which is really good. Adds a little healthiness to it. And this absolute break to this bullish flag right now is looking really nice. And this could continue upwards, making a really good upward move, but it is very overbought right now just by where it was prior. Let's see what we got. Average volume for this is 61 million, and it's 107 yesterday, so that's pretty good. All right, so you've almost doubled, and the aftermarket, pre-market definitely had some really good upward consolidation. So it's upward movement into this sideways consolidation up here right now. So it's not bad, but this could be one of those things where people are taking their profits. I'll be honest with you, if it was me, like if I would have bought into that 4 and I would see this, as soon as it opened, I'd sell. I'd take my $3,000 and I would run. But that would have been a swing trade for me, and that's kind of what I would have been looking for, because I'm not really sure. I mean, great, this is a great thing, but I'm not really sure how strong how this is going to be with incorporating it into the NTFs or NFCs. So that'll just have to be time. We'll see if time kind of makes that thing roll. I don't know. As of right now, it looks pretty good, but I would expect a pullback. At least I'd say maybe at pre-market or right at the bell, I'd say it pull back a little bit. Sidim is a NFT rumor. Oh, well then there you go. Anything NFT related, I mean, you throw NFT at it, you just incorporate it, and it's giving it gasoline to the fire right now. How long this will continue, I don't know. If non-fungible tokens are kind of the thing right now. So CSCW. I'm glad you guys can see what it is that I'm doing, because I'll be honest with you, I looked like a real dummy earlier, so sorry about that. All right, CSCW. Oh wow. All right. Kind of the same thing. You have a really long area of consolidation. That $1 range was its area that it was trying to punch through. Right now, all right. So if you look back for this month, since February, you had this you have this apex right here about the high of 138, so $1.38, and it just gapped it. All right, so it gapped up above into it. I would say try to come back down and use this as an area, a new high low, as an area support. If it can use this as an area support, then it can use it to kind of kick off. But for it to be coming out of this upward movement and then having this gap, especially in the 45-minute, having this gap up all the way to that $1.80 range, and then to come back down as it is right now, I would definitely expect this to kind of try to maybe fill this gapped area, being that it did happen today, and maybe try to test this area here around that 140, 138 area to use that as an area to support and kind of spring off of it. If it continues downwards, and we got 5 minutes, we'll see what happens in 5 minutes. But if it doubled its volume yesterday, so it has some pretty good volume coming in, so that's really good. But it just depends on what happens with this gap. If it fills this gap and uses it to bounce, and we'll be good. You're going to start pushing that too to get past this 180 area. If not, it could even fall back down into this consolidation area. Probably if it does, and it does fall, it'll dip below that 1 and use that 1 to come back up, because that consolidation area, right? It was above the 1, came down here to this 1, consolidated, fell down below it, and then came back up to it. I mean, it seems like that's what dang near every stock is doing right now. All right. So, hey, yeah, welcome. Welcome to the chat. Let's see. TSNP. All right, cool. TSNP. This helps if I spell it right. D. There you go. Humble. All right, so we were down low here in this 95 area. We'll just say 80, all the way up to 725. Wow, that was a really huge jump there. All right, so looking at RSI. Let me punch this down to the 5 minute, or let's see the 5 minutes since we're close. Let's see what's going on. Open this up for everybody. Wow. All right, so you can even see that right there. All right, RSI is way overbought. Although what's really nice is the MACD is having a pretty good upward movement. The differential between the signal line and the MACD is staying pretty solid, making a pretty solid move up. There's no curvature in the MACD yet. Signal line still not curving down. But what worries me is this right here. The RSI is very overbought right now. And it may come out of the gates. All right. It's already peaked above its resistance area from yesterday, which is about that 392 area, clearly above it. Looks like we may be trying to test some new highs, come back down into this consolidation area around 375, which would allow this RSI to kind of come back and get a little bit more healthy. Use that area to kind of kick up, and it actually doesn't look too bad. But any type of movement like this right here, I mean, that RSI is kicking up pretty good. I guess it depends on whatever news came out. Maybe this might be news related. Compass Minerals agrees to sell South America specialty plant nutrition business for $418 million. All right, so I guess this is they're selling a portion of their business. So that could just be them. That could be that from that. I'm not 100% sure. I don't really know anything about this company, to say the least. But it doesn't look bad here in the MACD. So if the RSI does come down, because the MACD is up there pretty good, you'll have some support. Won't allow the candles to fall too far, unless that volume just completely switches and you have a full downward move. You have two consolidation areas around 375 and also around that 345 area. Those would be two areas that I would pay attention to on this one. Hopefully I answer your question. All right, CleanSpark. I know I was looking at it earlier in the first video. I kind of want to delete it, but I want to have that as history, as my goofs. All right, so like I was saying earlier in CleanSpark has had a very tumultuous downward move for the longest time. We were happy when it was in 30. I was able to get it at like 747, like back in the day. For some reason, I just knew Microgrid Technologies was going to be like the thing. And with power outages and things that are going on, I think it is. It still is. Microgrid technology is going to be one of those things that's going to have to. It's going to take off, because once we start going to the EV stuff, once you have alternate energy, once you have a influx of power into the grid itself, you need to be able to take that power and distribute it evenly. All right, that's just something that right now we don't, which ends up happening is you have overloads in power systems and things like that. So microgrid technologies can help alleviate that. But they did have that gap up here. It's not really a gap because it was covered here. Still might be continuing that downward movement. Even if you draw some lines, right? Even on CleanSpark, if I draw a line for this stack, let's move that away here. There we go. All right, so find some lines. All right, so technically the line probably should be a little bit lower here. There we go. All right, so technically we did break out of this downward wedge, but we could also fall back into it. All right, so this may be that little bit of hope that we're trying to get this to continue upwards, but for it where it is right now, it has broken out, and it has well, there you go. As I just said it fell back into the wedge. So it could still fall into this wedge. It could still be, it could come back down to this 21 area again pretty easily. If it did, it would still technically be within the falling part of the wedge, because you have it further back here. So let me add another line to it so you can see it here. All right, chop out some of these because those are dipped down pretty low. All right, that's technically our downward wedge. We fell down twice, we came back into it, back up into the wedge, so I just kind of cut those off a little bit. But we could fall as far down to 2075, even 2065 area, and we technically would still be in the wedge. So for this to continue to stay out of the wedge and have an upward pattern, this is gonna have to come up to like the 2175 area and continue upwards. All right, so yes, it was great that it was looking good. All right, at that pre-market area, and it did gap up, but now it fell back in. And it looks like it may just be continuing its trend of movement, or it could trend sideways and kick out. As long as it stays here and kicks, we can still have that 2150, 2160 area for the day, and technically be a sideways consolidation out of the wedge, which isn't like the best, but it's better than continuing a downward movement. So CleanSpark has a lot of attributes to its company itself. Their Bitcoin mining, microgrid technology, everything within CleanSpark. I've been with them for a very long time, and I think they're an amazing company. They're just really taking a hit, and just like everything else technology related in the market. I can even pull up the bonds, right? So pull up the bonds right now. 10-year bonds, the 164. People are freaking out about the bonds. They're going to fluctuate with how the market, they're going to fluctuate with the economy. Commodities are taking a huge hit, but even commodities themselves are making an upward move. Let's see. Go here, U.S. markets. All right. So I do like to come into here, and I looked at sectors. So where are my sectors at? Sectors, there it is. All right, I like to see how the sectors are doing. All right, so sectors actually are picking back up. All right, it was a bloodbath earlier. Technologies have kicked up. They were actually down 14, so they're actually making another upward movement, which is really, really good. Compared to what we were yesterday, it was garbage, right? So commodities, it's another one. Commodities, in regards to your fuel or your petroleum and oil and things like that, it was actually taking a really big hit. And now it's kind of even itself out, maybe even making an upward move. It seems like they're trying to pick and choose like the one thing that's going bad. That's the reason why the market's falling. It was yields, then yields fell, but the market's still falling. Now they're not pointing at that. They're pointing the finger at somebody else. It's going to be Jerome Powell's fault, Yellen's fault. Honestly, this is just algorithms. This is a computer algorithm that are just selling. All right, selling, buying, doing things, moving things from one sector to another. That's why there's constant back and forth movement. It's really just a game. But the futures look pretty good. All right, futures look pretty good for the S&P, the Dow Mini, all right, Nasdaq, Russell. Everything was green. All right, so the futures look good. But last time futures looked good, it still fell. So it is what it is. I mean, the market is just it's been a real pain right now. All right, so Ride. I really, really, really love Lordstown Motors. I honestly think they're an amazing company with a really good future. I know that's not a very popular thing to say. They get hit by Hindenburg. I know Hindenburg's record isn't exactly the best. They got really lucky with the Nikola thing, but all you had to do is take 5 minutes and look at Nikola and what they were doing to realize that the company didn't make sense. If you're going to say that you're going to have a product at 2025 and you're working on a semi and it's a hydrogen, you got to look at the market and kind of see, is that even plausible? The fact that you have semi trucks that travel thousands of miles at weeks on end, right? And there's no infrastructure to refuel them or do anything like that. So, and I mean, companies aren't going to wait and sit around and wait for a vehicle to charge, right? So they're going to push it to the limit. They're going to sit at a truck stop and let it charge. And that's time that businesses can't afford, all right? Because truckers get paid by the distance that they travel and how long it takes. Some of them, you have a specific time that you can get there. Like if you get there early, you get paid a little extra. It is what it is. I'm not a trucker, but I have a couple of friends whose dads were, and that's kind of like the gist of it. But that's Nikola. So that was their niche. But Ride is something completely different. I think the big thing is the hub technology. I think the one analyst was talking about their hub technology and asked if taking out the wheel, if they'd have to take out the whole hub. You clearly don't know what you're talking about, and if you're going to downgrade a company, at least have an idea of what their technology is before you just sound ridiculous, right? Even in their presentations, the wheel's just connected to it. Everything's connected the same way as a regular tire or a wheel is to a rotor system, but you have the hub technology is just part of it. That's the motor. And even now, if 3 of the motors go down, you still can move with the one motor. So if they can prove that their technology is legit, where they're at right now is people maybe in a month from now are gonna wish that they bought when they bought here, right? There's my dogs again. They wish they would have bought here, right? Because the last few companies that Hindenburg decided to crush on, they fell really, really hard. But then there was that really quick double, even triple movement afterwards. So, I mean, take it what it is. This is your own due diligence. Do your due diligence. Figure out what you like about this company, and you gotta go with it. You want to use other sources, right? But if your main source that you're utilizing is a company or an organization or a research that has been wrong a lot, you got to take that with a grain of salt. And I think just because of what happened with Workhorse and their huge connection with Workhorse, I think because they didn't get the contract, that was their time to really kind of downgrade another company because of their ties with Workhorse. Because Workhorse went down and so did Ride, right? Even though Workhorse only owns 10%, that 10% apparently is a lot of weight and it pulled it down pretty good. So Lordstown Motors is their own company. They are the first to the market. If they can keep within their time scale, the first to the market to have a full-size truck. Full size, all right? Rivian is a mid-size, and then Tesla's coming out with a Cybertruck. I think it's cool. It's cool looking, but I don't know how practical it is. But maybe it could be. Maybe it could be really practical. I don't know. But I think Lordstown Motors, I really like their truck. I like the way that it looks. I think the Baja race, which is coming up in April sometime, I think it's the first or second week of April. If you're with a company and you're going through all these things, if you did not trust that your truck was going to be able to perform, putting it into the Baja race is probably not the best thing to do. If you knew that it was going to fail, or you thought it was going to fail, and you put it into a race like that and it does fail, that's literally going to bring your stock down, because it's going to show that you are not ready for production. Your truck is not ready. And then it brings that timeline of realism for their September rollout. I don't know. We'll see. The betas look pretty good. We'll see if they can get all their betas together. But what sucks is this downward movement, which did happen, just happened in like absolute worst time. And we'll go to this 6 month and we'll look at the 6 month real quick. All right, so we are sitting at our triple doubles or triple downs. So you have a sideways consolidation period here around that 1225 area, right? And then we had a great upward movement. It fell back down when it had that bad news. It wasn't even them. It was a workhorse had bad news, so it fell. And it fell down to this area around that $13 range. All right, and it made an upward move on its own, right? So it was making an upward move on its own, and it fell that mid-range pullback and made another kick upwards. This fall is just what's happening to the market, and then Hindenburg came in and threw a wrench into the mix and just completely brought this stock down. But what's really nice is you have really strong institutions that are still with this company. And it's only fallen down to this area where it's old lows. All right, so is for the long term, like any stock right now, for the long term is a great buying opportunity, just by how everything is rolling with the stock market. Yes, it is red, but it will recover, and when it does recover, when everything starts shifting back over to the tech, which it always does, because tech is just always moving. And no matter how far we go with our society, technology's always got to be there. So I think this is pretty good. It could drop down to that 12 again. It could fall down to that 12. But me personally, I don't think it's going to really stay there very long. But it could fall down to 10. It could fall back down to where we were down into this area, right? It could fall back down to this area. It could, because technically there's a gap. But that's to hit that gap, this thing would just completely have to be a failed company. But it could come back to that 10, and it could just be another nice buying opportunity to get this thing rolling. But like I said, I think the Baja thing is going to be a real big push for them. They really need to get better PR. Their PR has been really, really crappy lately. But I think with the SEC inquiry, all right, it's not an investigation, it's an inquiry. And once that inquiry is done and the results of that inquiry come out, I think I really think that this stock will reverse and make a pretty good upward move, slowly but surely. I don't think it's going to go parabolic and go straight to the moon, but I think we'll have just an opposite effect, a nice stair-step, healthy movement up and down. And those people that were buying it on the way down and don't want to hold anymore, and they're tired of holding that bag, maybe they'll sell and cause it to fall a little bit. But this looks pretty good. All right, let me go into the ABML, and then I'll hit up Workhorse. All right, so great consolidation here for the longest period of time, around that 15, 20 cent range. Clearly a very low penny stock. With this upward move to that 5, I think the medium range pullback probably been about, even with this, would have been like $2, maybe $2.50. All right, so it's just below that mid-range pullback. It did try to test its lows here, fell through them, and then tested and bounced back up. Could do the same thing here. Could be another test on that low area to kind of come back up into it to allow some upward movement. Let's see what the 5-minute looks like since we're already in. All right, so it does like the barcode, which really sucks too, but it's a penny stock. It's next to nothing, so Do have some barcode movement yesterday with the upward. Looks like it fell. Tried to do a mid-range push to come back upwards. And it couldn't hold on to it, and it fell, and it used this low area as an area of support. And it bounced out of it. So we'll see what happens today. That 145, maybe even down here to that I'd say 140 might be an area to pay attention to. But you have a lot of long lines here on this, at least yesterday, that use this line of support at that 145. And it's trying to test and trying to punch through that 150. So if we can punch through the 151, 152 area, then your next area would be that 154, 155, and then so on and so on as it goes up. You're going to have to use some old areas of consolidated support and resistance as your new highs and new lows. But this is because it has some connection to the EV market right now. There is a little bit of a recovery in the market for the EVs, but not a whole lot right now. It's been pretty bad. All right, so any reason you go as low as 5 minutes? And I will spot the same patterns in the 30s, or you prefer to use 5-minute overall pattern spotting. All right, so if I've never really talked about the company, I don't really know what it is. I want to see like what's going on with it, with the trends, and what the what the chart says. I mean, granted, the chart isn't going to tell you everything, but what is the MACD doing? What is it? What has it been doing? Meaning, what is the interest in the stock during this specific time period? Even AMBL, right? So it's got to test and punch through that 152, 151 area to continue upwards. So it's good that it's testing it, but it's just not able to hold that support. But sorry, going back to the charts. So I like to use the RSI. I like to use the MACD. I like to use my VWAP. I really like to see what the interest in the company is and then where it's trending over a time period. And then I like to go to the 5-minute, 3-minute, 1-minute during the actual trading day or during the trading hours, so I can kind of see where the most, like, what is the interest on it, like right now specifically. And then like I don't pay for TradingView, so I can't go to the 30-second below. But if I really want to see it, then I'll look at the 1 minute and just kind of really see how the candle's moving. Even though the MACD and the RSI are past, I mean, these are things that happen in the past. So you can't really use those as like, I'm going to use this RSI and the MACD only, and I'm going to be able to read what the stock is doing, and I'm going to know when to buy it and when to sell. Not necessarily, because those are past movements, but you can see trends within it, and then if it continues upwards from that trend, then you'll be able to have a better idea of what to actually do with the stock, either buy in or sell. And then how's the volume kind of working? How's the volume working in relation to the MACD and the histographs and the RSI all together into the candles? So it's kind of just, you compile everything together to kind of get a bigger picture, but if you just look at one specifically, then you're not going to be able to really see what's happening. At that point, you're just kind of guessing. All right, Workhorse. Man, Workhorse is taking a huge hit. There has been some movement in the Senate and the House and things like that, how they're trying to pressure the Obama administration to get rid of the panel of governors, or the board of governors, so to kind of push their EV agenda. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I think it's wishful thinking at this point, but Workhorse is an amazing company. I was looking at it prior, and then like Jack Spencer, I followed him on it, and the guy does an absolutely amazing due diligence, and literally everything was pointing. There was nothing that was really pointing that this wouldn't get anything other than their production and their limited production that they have right at that facility. But how the government likes to work is just kind of like how they did with Oshkosh, right? So even within their awarding, they would help them with infrastructure and building infrastructure. I don't see why they couldn't have done that with Workhorse. Even with Lordstown Motors having such the great facility they have, they could assist with that van utilizing that portion of the area to build Vanzor, the USPS portion of the contract. They could assist with it. So I think that was kind of like that little bit of uncertainty. But if they were to be awarded that contract, that would have been something that they would have figured out with the government, even with the extra money that was coming in. So I know that was like the biggest thing, but everything else was pointing towards them getting that contract. And I mean, it's definitely, I mean, it's not Jack's fault by any means for what happened. And it really sucks that it did happen that way. And even you can see in Lordstown Motors that they kind of took a hit because of it, just because their connection. But last mile delivery, I mean, they're going to be leading the way. There are other companies that are coming in, that's correct. But I think they have that advantage with the Horsefly technology and their ability to have drones go out from one area to another. It's been proven that it actually does work, and it works really, really well. But they're just waiting on that FAA approval. If they can get that FAA approval, then that's going to be really, really good for them, and they can start using that as a selling point towards other companies. I really do like the fact that Pritchard is behind them. Pritchard's an amazing company as well. That's really good. They're connected to Hitachi. Hitachi's an absolutely amazing company in regards to taking small companies and making them bigger and more efficient. The Workhorse is a future for last mile delivery. I certainly believe that, but I just really want them to get some numbers, right? So if they can get some orders and get those and prove that they can get that production out there, then I think that's going to be the turning point for them. Until then, they are a really good company that's just not at that level yet in regards to getting their production. And I think that's why they're in the effect right now. I know Jack even said, like, if they get 0%, that he was gonna have to figure out what his position was going to be, which he did. I'm not sure if he's bought in or not yet, but I know that he and I had been talking, and it was something that I know that he's really interested in getting back into, to build that position back again and watch it go. And I hope most of you are too, as well, who did get out and now you're kind of scared of it. But there's a reason why you were in Workhorse. It wasn't just because Jack was talking about it or YouTubers were talking about it. I mean, you should have been doing your own due diligence, and that company in itself is a really good company. And the future in 5 years, $14 a share is going to be nothing. I mean, that's really all I can really say on that. I mean, I think they're a really good company. They have a really great future. And it just kind of sucks that they're in the market that they are right now. If the market wasn't how it was, they would be around 16 to 18. They'd be up here. But just because the way the market has been lately, they're just one of those companies that kind of faltered prior to the full market dump, and they're just the ones taking the biggest effect of it. Also, their P&E and things like that aren't that great either. Just same thing as Tesla. Tesla's P&E is really horrible too. SYPR. Cypress Solutions. I have no idea what this company is. Let's see. Fourth quarter loss. All right, so they did have a fourth quarter loss. Revenue. All right, I mean, $1 million. All right, that's not bad. In this economy, the way it has been, if your only loss of revenue is, or your revenue was $1 million less than what you expected it to be, I'm fine with that. That's not bad at all, actually. Could be why they had a pretty good. That's why they're still moving sideways in the consolidation. So that's not too bad. Getting back up to that 8 area, probably not happening anytime soon. I think that was a bit of a spoof there, because it came out of it and came back down very quickly. So you had a really nice upward movement with a full retracement back into the sideways consolidation area. A little bit of a movement upward trying to get there, and it didn't, so it's falling. So it could come back down to this $3 area, $2.95, $3, maybe, to try to find that area of consolidation. But this, if you look at previous areas of consolidation, $3.32, they're only 30 cents off of it. So they could come back down to that area and use that as a consolidation point, and that'd be nice. So we can have sideways movement. But What really sucks is the MACD is clearly showing a bearish movement. All right, even though the histographs are trying to catch up, all right, you can see that they're trying to kick back up and starting to go faded. But as soon as they get a little bit of headway, they kick back down and start another movement. Now the MACD is it is really trying to kick back up. But if you look at trends in regards to how this thing does move, it is in an area where it usually makes an upward move after. So I think with some volume, you're going to need close to this to get this back up. You're going to have to get close to 500 or 600,000 to get this thing moving back up to at least to that 4 area. Its only saving grace is the RSI is really, really low. What is nice is the RSI was really chopped on its way down. So I actually like that. If it does make a downward movement in the RSI, I do like to see that it is choppy. But I would like to see a choppy movement up so we can consolidate and move back up to maybe up in that 390, 385 area. But it's just going to need volume. There's just no volume right now to get this thing to move anywhere. But if you look at how the MACD or the trends or the patterns for this has taken place, it's heading towards with the same type of movement, right? You have the same kind of movement, even though it's down, or even though it's green, it's still a downward movement. All right, downward movement here. So if you compare how it did yesterday, right? So you have a downward movement that ended up apexing here and transitioning back upwards into above the 0 line. If it can do that with the volume to kick it back up, and the RSI remains choppy like this, I think it could get back up at least to that 4. Could get back up to that 4 area, maybe sideways consolidation. That would be really nice. All right, the short report has hit us hard. Yeah, short report's really bad on just about everything right now. All right, so nice. TPG, TPYG, GY. Like dyslexic or something. All right. What is this? Whole lot of no news as of late in regards to whatever this is. EV charge BV will become public via business. All right, so I'm assuming this is it'll look real quick. Hold on. CPGY. Okay, so this is a SPAC. Well, I mean, it's definitely above its NAV, that's for sure. But anything with SPACs, especially an EV SPAC right now, they're just going to be hit. It is nice that this does still continue to have an upward movement. If I draw this line here to show its movement. All right. And we'll just use that area there. We can go a little higher, but we have a few lower peaks here, so we'll just use those. But all right, so let's say we put our trend line here, our line of support. It's fallen out of it, and now it's starting to develop a downward move. Let's see what the 30-minute looks like. Yeah, all right, so that's not a bad line of support since it's touched it a few times. It did break out of it. For it to get back into this wedge to continue this upward move, it's going to have to get above 20, which right now there's just no volume to do it, so I don't think it will. The best bet would be a sideways move, at least for this company. But what is nice though is it looks like it's trying to find a new area of support. So it could be here at that 1818 area, 1814, or it could be trying to use it here at the that 1850 area. Might be, but it looks like it's trying to go down more. The MACD's looking really, really rough. The differential between it, even though it's showing a negative 15, it's going faded dark 15. and are hitting 13, so which means the MACD is starting to curl up to kind of close this distance so it doesn't fall any further. RSI is about to hit the oversold area, so could use this to bounce off and at least maybe have another upward movement. But getting back up to 20 or to get back into this upward move, it's going to have to take a lot of volume, which I don't think it's got, at least today. I don't think it's got today. Your best bet for this one is sideways movement. So hopefully that answered your question on that. Charging infrastructure company, these are low right now. Now they are low, yes, they're very low, but because this is a SPAC, it just depends on what happens after this SPAC movement, and if it decides to go like sell the news type thing once the merger happens and sells. I don't know. It just depends on what's going on with it. Charge point, I think is CHPT. I think I have it somewhere actually. CHPT. All right, so I really like ChargePoint. One thing with ChargePoint is they have, and I just had it. Where did it go? Darn it. Oh, it's right there. So I really like ChargePoint. They have government contracts, which is really good, and same thing with Plug, but they have pretty good government contracts. When you have your 52-week high at that 49.48, almost touch that 50. This could flip. This could have an absolute flip, and then you could have you can almost have 100% of your investment returned back to you. Is it going to be able to get the support that it needs to get there? And right now, in EV or anything EV related, there's just really no support right now, and that's what sucks. This could honestly fall all the way back down to 17. This could fall down to 1650 to 17, and actually have a consolidated supported area. We don't want it to do that, obviously, especially if you are a bag holder on this one. But that's why this V-shaped recovery, which happened here, that bottom, as we're kind of looking towards the bottoms, we were saying the bottoms were, is probably around this $20 area. So it still does have room to come down, but anything further than that, I think if it drops to that 20, that 1750, 1650 area might come pretty quickly. So just pay attention to that. Pay attention to how the RSI is doing, because with such a quick RSI recovery, right? You got to spread this thing out. It tried to go a little parabolic and went diabolic very quickly. There's still a downward move in the MACD, so this does have room to fall still. It's just, is it going to be able to get the volume to get it back up? And I'm not sure today is going to be that day, to be honest with you. Hopefully that wasn't the bad news you wanted to hear. LKCO. Boom. You guys sure like your penny stocks, that's for sure. All right, so this actually, just by looking at it, this movement here isn't bad. All right, so you got a little bit of a cup and a handle. Handle kind of fell pretty far. You actually like your candles to kick off a little bit to kind of go bullish. So if you're here at that 380 area, where are we at right here? Come on, kick over. We're sitting here at, so 385. All right, so we got that 385. We'll say the lows here, 64 cents. Holy cow. All right, so the mid-range pullback for this would have been this peak here. All right, around this area. This consolidated area would have been around its peak or its mid-range pullback. So just like a few of the other stocks I talked about earlier, they fell below their mid-range pullback, and they look like they're trying to head towards that retracement, that full retracement. So you have here this area, peak, came back down. Although it was a gradual fall, it fell all the way down to a full retracement, meaning it was at an area prior to its upward move, and it came back to it. I do like to see that it is stair-stepping its way back up. So if we use this area here, all right, so if you use the 1 and the 2, That 150 area is going to be your area of consolidation for a mid-range pullback for this to allow for another healthy movement upwards. RSI is looking pretty choppy, so if it can chop its way back, it'll be good. MACD is already converged and pushing the signal line upwards towards at least hopefully trying to get it to that zero line so we can get back into some healthy trading area. And the candles don't look horrible. I mean, this is a 30-minute candle, but they don't look horrible right now. This gap right here, I wouldn't worry about it because it's clearly covered prior. And it could be making like a head and shoulders kind of movement, right? So have a little shoulder to a head. If this can do one of those little motions there, right? If you can have a little upward movement, trying to test that 160 and come back down, that could be a little head and shoulders bullish movement, which could be pretty nice too for this stock. But it just depends on what kind of volume this can get. I mean, you're sitting at 2 million, your average is 24, so you still got 22 million volume to come from somewhere, preferably buying. But right now, this needs to get up to that 150 and at least move sideways consolidation, so at least it's a healthy mid-range pullback. So hopefully it can get there. And it looks like it's trying to. It looks like it's trying to get that bullish movement out to get this to push up. But is it going to? I don't know. I can't answer that. Fingers crossed, I guess. But looking at the market right now, even sectors, technology fell. Sectors are doing really, really bad right now, or at least the ones I'm in. Energy's doing good. Financials, healthcare, industrial. And materials are doing really, really good right now. But technology is taking a huge hit. So hopefully what ends up happening is today technologies takes a bit of a dump and then it just recovers and makes us all feel good about ourselves. But we'll see. I don't know. I don't think it will. Hopefully I answered your question about the LKCO. Man, that's a lot of them. All right, so FRX. I really, really, really like FRX. What sucks with FRX right now? That's a SPAC. And I really like the trifecta thing that they're doing. You got Disney executive backing them. You have athletes that are backing them. Beachbody, MyFitness, and I think they have their own bike type thing. Awesome. I think it's great. Once everything really starts kicking off, I think this will be really good for a recovery. It's just honestly, how far are you from the NAV, right? So you're the worst you can do is lose 23 cents per share, depending on how many shares you have. If you were to buy right now. I mean, 10 is obviously going to be my area that you can pay attention to as your area of support, and it's very close to it right now. It just really, really sucks that it fell, but SPACs are just taking a huge hit right now. A lot of people aren't willing to throw their money at SPACs, at speculation, when in all reality, once they agree or have some sort of agreement that they're going to be bringing a private company public, I mean, that's what you need to start paying attention to. What is that company going to bring to the market? Beachbody's a multi-billion-dollar company already right now, and they're everywhere. So I think that they'll be fine. They'll recover and they'll be really good. Maybe try to test this 18 area. I mean, I'd be happy with it testing 15 or 16 like usual SPACs do. But it looks like it's probably going to move sideways, close to the NAV, unless and that's NAV is net asset value. If it moves anywhere above that, I don't think it's going to go I don't think it's going to go very high, but as long as we can get to 15, 16, like an average SPAC, then I think we'll be just fine. It's just, market right now really sucks. Visalink, I really like Visalink. And Visalink's a great company. What it's really bringing to the table, I think, is really good. The company used to be kind of until they got a new CEO that kind of came in and shook things up a little bit. I know they're coming out with good news after good news after good news. There it is. I know I had it. But just like what's going on with the market, you can have a lot of good news and it's just not doing anything, and that's what really sucks. So let's see, Visalink. That low is about that 240 area for them. Even 250, 275 would be a really good, solid, consolidated area prior to their upward move to that 5. But I do like to see this, all right? So even within the candles and the candle movement here, to see what kind of pattern we got going on, I do like to see that it's choppy, all right? I like to see choppiness, meaning it's healthy buying and selling, and it's continuous upward move. Now, if you want to, let's put a line on there and see what's going on. Whoop, whoop. I guess we can put it down here at that low. Come on, there we go. Even then, it doesn't really look that good. We'll do this. Let's see. There we go. All right. So just because it fell and it came back out of it, I'm not going to use that area because that was just really high volatility. But based on how the support has been moving, I mean that's pretty much your line of support and how it's been going. Yesterday it fell out of it, so now you turned into a downward trend, which really brought the MACD and everything down pretty good. Now, for this to get back up into that trend area, you're going to have to get to 375. If it can bounce up to 375, close to 380, all right, to test this area here as a line of resistance. Technically, this is your line of resistance above, just slightly above that 4, but you have 1, 2, 3 little peak areas here. So 385, 386, I'd say is probably a good line of resistance that we got to get through. Once you punch through that, you'll be able to get some upward movement. But even if it does get there soon, right, it's got a pretty good long, I mean, that's 1600 for me, all right, that's 1600 for me. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Yeah, so we have the entire day. If it can get up there, we'll be just fine. And this will be back up into the wedge, moving sideways. It just needs volume, right? So 7 million, you're only sitting at 10%, just over 10% with almost 800,000. So it needs more volume to do anything. The only volume it has been downward sales. Even into the pre-market, it's been selling. Now, the histographs are starting to turn really bullish, which is really nice. It's starting to get faded, starting to get smaller. RSI is starting to make its way back up, which is good. As long as we can get above that 50 and continue upwards, I think we'll be fine. This starts getting into your really good, healthy area, but technically it's still oversold, and it still has some area of upward movement that it needs to happen. Now, once that signal line starts to really kick and make a nice upward move towards the zero line, then we'll have a pretty good upward move, I think. It just depends on if the volume's going to be there to make it happen even quicker. But the differential between the two is a -3 to a 2 to a faded 1. So you're sitting at a negative 0.1. So this is going to obviously have to turn some sort of solid color. So if this can get to a 0.0, then we'll finally have a little bit of a crossing. It's just like everything else. Is it going to have the volume or not? I don't know. CKPT. All right. So I'm probably going to have to do this for I'm probably got 10 minutes left, and then I'm going to hop off here because I don't know how the YouTube thing works yet. I don't want to be on there too long. All right. So this is Checkpoint Therapeutics. Ooh. Let me see. Announces information scientific advisory board. All right. Okay. Sorry, I was just kind of reading about it a little bit. All right. So this is still in a sideways consolidation between this 160 and this 360 and 330. So you got 30 cents of sideways consolidation. So it's really not bad. At least right now, it's not bad. The MACD is definitely bullish or bearish. I'm sorry, it's bearish. MACD is trying. The MACD line is trying to curve and try to converge on this signal line to get it to push. Histographs are starting to become more shallow and they're starting to get faded. And the RSI is very oversold. So with some really good volume, I think this could at least continue its sideways movement and maybe try to test that 360 area. But right now, without any volume, this is just going to move sideways. If not, can try to fall further and maybe test that 330 area. But without volume, this is going nowhere, just like any other stock. VGAC, VGAC, boom. Yeah, man, this sucks. This had, VGAC had some pretty good potential. The 23andMe stuff. Honestly, I didn't get into the VGAC. I know that there were some YouTubers that are out there getting the genetics and research company, which is cool. I mean, I think that's pretty cool. But it's really not for me, so I didn't get into it, and I really don't care. But depending on where you're at, I mean, it's a SPAC, so if it's going to hang out here and it fell to that's close to its NAV, and it still looks like it has some downward movement that it is trying to develop. Well, maybe not. Maybe not so much. This is definitely very oversold. And with some volume, I mean, it's only at 200,000. The average is 1.28 million, so that's over a long day. That's really not that much volume. I think with some volume to push this thing back up, it'll be the MACD will quickly converge on the signal line, and then it will converge on the zero line and make an upward movement. But it looks like that. 11 is going to be hard to get through, at least right now. 11 is going to be hard. But if it stays in this area, you're just going to have sideways consolidation. And if you buy in right now, the worst that you can do is lose 24 cents per share. But this is going to have to wait till it gets closer to the merger, to be honest with you. Is it a hold? Could be. I mean, I think honestly, depending on how low you are on your SPACs, they all could be. I mean, they all could be holds, really good holds for the future. It just depends on. It just really depends on how much that company is going to be liked when it finally does go, or if it's going to be in a sector that is doing well. A lot of the SPACs right now that are EVs aren't doing very well because technology is not doing very well. All right, FCell. I think I actually have that one. No, I do. I like FCell too. FCell's pretty good. Although you do have that low, that bottom at that 1095, 11 area. And from there to there, wow, that was a pretty good move. From there to there, 711 to 1845. So the midline area would be around 1450. So we're $1 below that mid-range pullback from that little bit of upward move there. Yeah. It could come down and test this 1085, 11 area. Could. Don't really see it happening, to be honest with you, just because the RSI is so oversold right now, which looks like it could do a little bounce in reverse. Same thing with the histographs. Histographs are, they are starting to, this still has some downward movement that it's going to have today. And it may try to test maybe that 1260, 13, that 13 area. Might try to test that today. It just needs some volume, and it just doesn't have it right now. So that sucks. And, all right, so last one, I'm going to look at Genus, of all things. That thing is getting swung like crazy. Or was anyways. All right. Now, Genus did make a move in January. Last time it made its move, it fell pretty quickly. This is a stronger upward movement, which isn't bad. I know there was some news coming out that what was it? Something about Marvel something or other. My philosophy behind that is if Disney doesn't want it and they own Marvel, it probably isn't that good. So, I mean, yeah, you may try to ride that Marvel train on something completely different, but I mean, if Disney didn't want it and they have all the money in the world to kind of make it work, I don't foresee it really working out for anybody else. But that being said, it is having a pretty good upward movement. It is heading towards the overbought area, although the MACD does look pretty strong. This is looking like it needs to have a pullback. And its next pullback, if it does, will come back to that 225, 215 area, maybe even 2, to kind of come back to this consolidated period here. Because this is known for consolidation for a very long time. So this, a lot of people have this as a bag holder, right? This is a bag holder's paradise. So any chance that these people are going to be able to get rid of this stock, they're going to take it. And the volatility on it is going to be pretty high. But, I mean, even right now, 41 million and the average is 34. The volume is there. The volume is there, and most of it right now is purchasing. It just needs more of a solid catalyst other than some maybes, right? But I think it could make another. It could continue. It could maybe try to test this 315 area, and it might even try to test this, right? So let's see, area 334. All right, it could test that, or it could even try to test this area here, that 370. Could try to test that too. But other than that, just by where it's at right now, once it gets there, it's going to come back down, or at least that's what it looks like. So hopefully I answer your question on that. All right, so last one, Foot Locker. I'll look at Foot Locker and I'm done. I gotta get off here. I'm actually surprised Foot Locker is doing better as how they are, since everything's taken a hit across the global market, especially in China and things like that. So, but it's one of those companies that have been around for a very long time. It does have a downward trend developing, or did try to have one develop in the MACD, but it's coming out of it, and it looks like it's let's see where we at. Differential 0, 28, 15 to 9. So it looks like the next one may kick to, I don't know, like a negative 0.02, 0.03. And then maybe make another upward move. But this is a pretty shallow downward movement right here. And it could still fall. It could still come down a little bit. And maybe try to test this low again here at that 54 area, between 54 and 54.50, and it could do that, like that little tiny consolidated area there. But it's been consolidating pretty solid for the last couple weeks, so if it sits there and kind of bobs, that's not bad, right? It's holding pretty solid, but it does have room to fall, but I don't know if it's going to fall that far. It all depends on what the volume is to determine where it's going to stay. So consolidation, pretty good. Wherever it falls next, though, it looks like it may just follow that pattern of consolidation. So even when it falls, right, it falls, consolidates, make an upward move. It falls, consolidates, upward move. So right now, if you want to look at this, all right, so you have sideways movement to upwards, long area of consolidation to a fall, so it could fall and consolidate again, kind of hit that mid-range area and make another upward movement. Could do that. It just depends on the interest on the volume, man. So hopefully I answered your question, bro. And then, did I describe the highest level of functionality trading view? Not yet. I have not yet, but I just used a basic one. I don't need to pay all this crazy amount of money to to utilize all these crazy functions and turn my charts into just a bunch of just garbage everywhere. Yeah, you don't need that. Honestly, you just end up confusing yourself, and it just looks like a big jumbled mess. Even now, they changed the VWAP in it, and the VWAP looks really ugly. I don't really like it either, but I just pay attention to my average line, which is, at least for Foot Locker, it's 56, 57. So right now you are below the VWAP, and to get back up to that, you need to get some more volume. But I think that's about it for me. Honestly, hit me up in the comments if you can, and just honestly critique it, man. Anything I can do to make it better. The first one was garbage because I couldn't even share my screen. That's kind of stupid. But hopefully doing this was better. You guys could see what I was talking about. And then the more and more comfortable I get with this, obviously the better it will be. But your support means the world to me. I greatly appreciate it. But if you like it, subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. I greatly appreciate it. And I will be back soon with another one. And really, I started this kind of for the Patreon, or Jack Spencer's Patreon, because I wasn't able to save videos when I would do live streams and do stuff like this. It's just this was just something that I kind of want to do because it's kind of like a little bit of passion of mine. But what I do want to do is where's it at? I think there was something else on here, and I don't know. I don't have it. Never mind. Sorry about that. But last thing, let's go out there.